All right. So this campfire thing's going on right now, and I just turned it off because I'm just pissed. So buckle up. They started off when they introduced the buffs. They show this picture, and as someone who has only played Barb exclusively, I've never had a level like 3 of any other class. I cannot tell you what the changes are. Whatever it is, it's awful. Pretty sure it's this burning enemies was buffed a little bit. Talk about that in a bit. But why would they showcase this? Okay, I'm trying not to make this personal. Okay, let's just talk about the buffs for Barb. And then I don't know. Anyway, they start off by saying, okay, Fury gained increase from 11 to 13. And then they try to say, but wait. A little gaslighting, but wait. This is actually really big. The issue with Barb is not theory generation. It's not. You can work around it. It's part of the fun with Barb is you figure out how to get the Fury generation. This is not the issue. It helps, but just like the buffs that they gave a little bit ago before season 1, yes, it helped, but it is not addressing the issue. So we increase the Fury gain from all of these basic skills. Cool, great, neat. Double swing, you increase the damage by 20%. Wow. Or 25%, I guess, technically. That's like not the issue. Like, double swing doesn't have its own aspect. That's the issue. You have Whirlwind, where you start spinning, and after 3 seconds, you're creating 50% more. That's a real aspect. That's something that double swing does not have. You have Hoda, where you get a massive AoE. That is what double swing is missing. These little tornadoes that come and hits the target behind what you're attacking doesn't really do much. It's missing. You wouldn't even use that. Rupture. This damage increase went from 30% to 70%. It's just getting there as something useful. I'll have to look into this. It's a little bit interesting. Charge. Yes, Charge absolutely needed this. But in addition to this, it also needed a wider range. Okay, like you can't charge things into the terrain, which is a core mechanic with using charge. And this damage increase it's good. It's a start, but you can't AoE at all with it. So then you're basically just single targeting. And what do you single target? It's elites and dungeon bosses, and you can't charge a dungeon boss and knock it into terrain. So anyway, vulnerability duration increased 2 to 4 seconds. Cool, nice. Upheaval. I actually like this change. It's not bad. Or a boss is what they changed. So, or a boss is cool. You get berserking. This honestly was needed. Good job. That doesn't fix Upheaval, but it's a start. Upheaval also needs its own aspect, similar to Hoda and Whirlwind, where something happens when you use it that just makes the spell 3 times better. And Double Swing and Upheaval don't really have this. All right, let's get into passives. Aggressive resistance. That's a start. 3% to 4%. If I remember right, this is the one where if you're berserking, you get damage reduction. I would call that an acceptable change. Gushing wounds, bleed, damage, increase, and the overpowering. I think this is an AoE. When you overpower, you do an AoE bleed over 5 seconds, and it was like 11%, and they're increasing it to 70. That's just like this has just been a meme, honestly. Like the overpowering literally did nothing. Now it's kind of meaningful. Like 70%'s not bad. So unconstrained, I think. So this is if you're berserking, which is a barb spell. You do more damage as you're berserking and you run faster. Unconstrained is an ultimate passive that increases the time that you could be berserking for. Like you can keep refreshing it, but it's maxed at like 5 seconds, but unconstrained increases it to 10. And on top of that, it gets an additive damage bonus from 25 to 35%. So TLDR, this is meaningless. It's adding 10% additive damage to berserking. Yeah, I don't. Unconstrained's now easily the worst ultimate passive. Walking Arsenal, 6 to 8 seconds. That's actually pretty profound. I like that a lot. Good job. This is me in chat. Fury is not the issue with Barb. It's not. Like you can work around Fury. What you can't work around is surviving or single target dealing damage. And develop. This is not final. I just took these screenshots as they were talking. All right, Legandaries. Yeah, Legandaries. Let's talk about Legandaries. Aspect of Ancestral Force. So, uh, I believe this is Hoda. So Hoda does, if you put on a 200 weapon, 64 to 100% damage in an AoE. Now it's 80 to 116. That's actually a pretty good change. Good job. Deathwish Thorns. I'm not a Thorns person, so it probably helps. Maybe we'll see some better things from Thorns. I hear Thorns is pretty good. It's just not that popular. Aspect of Unrelenting Fury. So this is a ring aspect, and when a core skill kills something, it refunds this. You know, I've actually liked this. It's pretty good. It's not like amazing, but I think this is actually good if you're trying to get away from shouts. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get away from shouts. So Aspect of Unrelenting Fury is actually one of the best upgrades I've seen. And it's not a that good of a buff, but I think stuff like this is what they need to be aiming for. Like this is actually good because it enables you to use other spells than getting Fury while you're shouting. Is probably the most popular ring aspect. Aspect of Ancestral Charge, damage increased. Yeah, cool, whatever. Um, Aspect of Burning Rage, who gives a crap? Burning, it's you can buff it by 50%. It's not gonna change the issue. It does absolutely shit damage. I'll test this, but this damage is a joke. You need to like tenfold it before you're really like you're gonna start hurting bosses or elites with it. In my opinion, maybe I'm wrong. Damage reduction from earthquakes increased 15 to 25%. We're starting to get places. This is for leap. When you leap, you hit. You get damage reduction on where you land. This might actually be like a pretty good utility spell aspect. This is probably one of my favorites. Earthquake aspect. Damage bonus on earthquakes increased from 15 to 5 to 15 to 15 to 25%. This as a codex is actually meaningful, and 25%, this is an X 25%. That will make, so this is a ground stomp spell, and that will actually make ground stomp a lot better. That's probably the second best thing they've done. Uniques, honestly, maybe good things come from this. I don't think I've developed an opinion on it. Fields of Crimson, the pools, I've never actually used it, so I can't really say. I think Rupture, we might see like, I think Rupture at least is like a B tier build now. I think leveling, it's, so Rupture, how Rupture works is you make a target bleed and then you rupture it, you pull it out, and it deals all the bleed damage at once, and it does a little AoE. And then we talked about that AoE a little bit ago with the 70% damage AoE bleeding over 5 seconds or whatever. And that's a free spell. And you can use that like it's like a 10-second cooldown. That's actually meaningful now. 70% damage with no Fury cost. Rupture might be a good leveling spell now. 70% free damage. That's like better than Kick. Or Leap or Charge if you try to use it for damage. Hellhammer, damage increased from this to this. That was the burning stuff. See, it's not meaningful. It needs to be like 5 or 10-fold for it to start doing anything that you'd ever really want to use it for. I'll give more opinions about this later. Romaldi's, this is getting better. Romaladanis, however you pronounce it. Magnum Opus. Vulnerable damage is always good. So, this is a one-hand sword. It's like on the cusp of being good. This actually will probably push it into being good, I think. 100,000 steps. Cool. Battle trance. It's like giving up on so this is a necklace, and it's supposed to make, what's the spell called? Frenzy. Deal more damage, and it's like, okay, we're gonna take the basic skill damage off of it and replace it with cooldown reduction. The bonus attack speed to other skills increased from 10 to 20% to 35 to 45%. This could be really interesting. Let's actually take a look at that real quick. So I'm gonna make an amulet. This is DiabloBuilds.com. Battle trance. So you can see, oh, that's super small. Anyway, increases maximum frenzy stacks by 2. So if you look at frenzy now, unleashes a rapid attack of blows. It's 2 one-handed weapons. You're hitting things, and when it has max stacks, it also makes other things attack faster as well. The only issue with this is it's only for 3%, or excuse me, 3 seconds. Frenzy attack speed stacks need to be like 6 seconds minimum, probably even 8, and that will make frenzy useful. It's increasing the attack speed of other skills. It's still not gonna work. I really don't think we're gonna use this, because you don't use frenzy. You just don't. Lunging strike is better in every way, and 3 seconds of 35 to 45% bonus attack speed. All this falls off incredibly fast. It's not meaningful, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we can make it work. It might be a boss fight skill now. I could see this working for like Lilith, but speccing to frenzy sucks for Lilith. It's gonna cost you millions of gold and a couple of hours of respecking. And looking for crappy gear that has the right stuff on it for the build that you would concoct around battle trance. It's not going to fit in your stash. Yeah, it's just going to be very annoying. Which class will dominate season 1? This was a poll taken a few weeks ago, and I casted my vote. And Blizzard is hell-bent on making this true. All right, I think that's all my pictures. Now, let's talk about what they should have done. I have my recommendations. I didn't send this in ample amount of time to Blizzard, but I did send it to them, and this is my recommendations for Barb. And I tried to do it like, well, anyway, I put some of the most important things on top. So vulnerable. This is easily the biggest issue with Barb, is making things and keeping them vulnerable. Barb is great on Players 1. Barb is the worst class for P4. For this is specifically for dungeon running. If you can kill things in the first 3 seconds, then vulnerable is fine. Barb is fine. Solo Barb is fine. Maybe lacking a little defense, but with Barber you can make it work. But if you do P2 to P4, you're leveling with the group, you're trying to push stuff as a group. Vulnerable is the biggest issue because you can't make things vulnerable. You can only do it for 3 seconds. And then you have to count on pressure point. Pressure point has a 10, 20, 30% chance to make enemies vulnerable for 2 seconds. Lucky hit chance. And lucky hit is garbage on Barb. You never get it. So you never make things vulnerable. You can't kill things as a boss, a dungeon boss. If you run into like what are they called? Defense damage reduction aura guy, you whirlwind in, you Hoda in, you kill that guy. After you kill that guy, there's 1 second left on vulnerable on everyone else. And if Barber doesn't exist, then you have to spend 15 seconds killing everything else because you can't make things vulnerable anymore with the exploit glyph. So I recommended 3 times this. Bam, you have essentially fixed Barb. Some of the biggest issues with Barb is strictly making things vulnerable. Otherwise, you have to count on using like Steel Grasp to make things vulnerable. and then you pull everything into you, and you're trying to push high level dungeons, and they just pop you instantly. That's the only other way to make things vulnerable that I've really found, and it's just a big issue. Defense. Barb spends like 20 skill points just to survive mechanics that other classes can spend 1 to 3 skill points doing. Blood Mist, Flame Shield, Deep Freeze. I'm sure there's more. I don't know other classes super well. But it's like with Barb, it's like, okay, like, I've got my core stuff done. Now I'm going to give myself 15% extra life. I'm going to damage reduction against elites. Okay, there's 6 points gone. Okay, I'm going to put points into Thick Skin. So I get Fortify every time I'm attacked. And then I'm going to make my Fortify even better. And now that they've increased aggressive resistance, now I could probably zoom this in a little bit more. Now it's going to be 12% instead of 3%. And it's like, okay, well, now all of my skills are gone trying to reduce the freaking damage that everything does to me. And I can't even look at the cool trees like this guy, 15% X more crit strike damage for 200 weapons. Bludgeoning weapons deal 15% increased damage when they're stunned or vulnerable. Concussion, make everything in front of you stunned. That's actually a very good defensive spell. Yeah, you don't have skill points to put at other places because you spend all of it trying to survive. At least that's been my experience with leveling. And yeah, it's just a big issue. And I don't feel like other classes get that. They kind of just get a splurge on damage and utility stuff. And Barb's like, okay, damage reduction, damage reduction, damage reduction. Oh, maybe I can stun things some of the time. Damage reduction. I can't really stop things from killing me, but hopefully I can kill it before it kills me, and it doesn't work out, and you just die. Okay, next thing. Charge/kick. Okay, this is a long video. Double or triple the AoE of charge and kick. So they increased the damage of charge. They like doubled it, but they did not increase the AoE. As you kick things, everything in front of it should go with, not just one thing. You have to directly hit things with kick or charge, or it doesn't move. And it's like the width of it is extremely poor. That's what I'm calling the AoE, is the width. Next thing, ground stomp. They need to increase the radius. Feel like they didn't quite do that. Unique weapons. They are approaching unique weapons wrong. You should just allow barbs to imprint aspects in addition to the unique aspects. That would fix everything. That would bring Upheaval into this world. That would bring the one-handed sword, the magnum opus, like, into being useful. This is incredibly important. Basic attacks. They've tried to address this, but I am still... Let me bring up the pictures again. I am still not going to use Flay and Frenzy and Bash. I'm not going to. Lunging Strike is the best because it's mobility. You're giving up like a third of your mobility with not having Lunging Strike. And Lunging Strike, believe it or not, actually does pretty good damage compared to all of the other skills. So it just missed the mark. Okay, so here's my cool suggestion. Give Barb the ability to combine 2 basic attacks. It's like, if we go back, well, if we go here, it's like maybe we tee this off at the bottom here or something. Or maybe you tee it off this way and it's like you spec into, you put 1 point here, then you spec into Lunging Strike, and then all of your others now lunge. Or you spec into Bash and you put into this other spec. Now you can bash every time, like you can stun after every couple of hits, or have a 30% chance to stun or something. With Frenzy, you have a stacking increased attack speed, or I don't know. Frenzy, it'd probably have to be something a little bit different than what Frenzy gives. Flay, enhance Flay as a 10% chance to make the enemies vulnerable. Honestly, here's what you could do. What if you had all 4 of these? And then the second one is like You click this, all of your other basic attacks now do this. And then you have 2 points here, 2 points here, and now you have a lunging strike that bashes, or a bash that lunges. And it's a little bit different on what they do, but you can combine these and suddenly basic attacks might be meaningful. I would give up 2 points to do that, maybe even 3. I think that's the change they should go for. It might not be easy for the engineers to do, but I honestly think that it is more of the path they need to do to fix basic attacks, because basic attacks suck. Now, I don't think adding 15% Fury generation is going to fix it. They just suck. They don't do damage. You don't need another 3 Fury or whatever after all of the percentages. You need it to deal damage. Steel Grasp. You should be able to assign a weapon to it. You can't right now. It makes sense, but if you want to enable a lot of other builds, make it so you can assign a weapon to it. Suddenly, Walking Arsenal will be very popular. All right, Combat Bash. This one probably pisses me off more than almost anything. So, Combat Bash is after critical striking 4 times with Bash using a 2-handed weapon, your next core or weapon mastery skill will overpower. If you just change this to any weapon and not just a 2-handed weapon, people might start using Bash with like a Hoda build. Why? Because here's Hoda. This was completely just like confounded me, or I don't know. I'm just confused out of my absolute mind why they have Combat Bash do this. Your next core or weapon master skill will overpower, but you will like never use a 2-handed weapon. This actually has to be bludgeoning. That's why I'm getting confused. Let me show you. But this has to be a bludgeoning weapon. It can't be a 2-hand slash. So Bash, suddenly you absolutely cannot use it with Hammer of the Ancients, which Hammer of the Ancients is the spell that you're supposed to overpower with. And Barb has really no way of doing that. So if you check this out, like after overpowering with Hammer of the Ancients, you deal 30% more damage for 5 seconds. That's not, like, inherently, that is not really better than Furious Hammer of the Ancients. Even if you could use this, it, like, doesn't feel that much better. But if you could, you have to use a 2-handed bludgeoning weapon for Combat Bash in order to use this. But if you're doing that, then you're not swapping weapons, and you're giving up all of the buffs of using the arsenal or anything with Barb. You can't do Tempered Fury, where each time you swap weapons, you gain Fury. This is where you get Fury from. Barb should not have Fury issues for the most part. But if you have to make this 2-handed bludgeoning, and this 2-handed bludgeoning, because Hoda has to be a 2-handed bludgeoning weapon, then you're never going to get this to work. So you allow this to be a 1-handed weapon, or even a 2-handed slashing weapon. And then suddenly it'll then work. Let's look at this real quick. Requires a bludgeoning weapon. So there you go. Your next attack will overpower. You can either use dual wield or your 2-handed bludgeoning, but it specifically says it has to be a 2-handed weapon, so you can't swap weapons with using Bash and Hammer of the Ancients. That's like, this interaction literally just pisses me off. Who made this? What was your intention when you put this using a 2-handed weapon in here? It makes no sense at all. The only way you could possibly make it work is if you used Death Blow, because Death Blow can be used with any weapon. Where's it at? Here it is. Requires any complete arsenal weapon. So you could use it with this, but it still like doesn't make sense. in my mind. I'm getting tired. Frenzy, and all of these notes I made last night. Frenzy, it does bad damage, and the fear generation isn't anything special, and the attack speed falls off too fast. I don't see people using Frenzy. 3 seconds of increased attack speed, even if it's this big number, still seems like crap, because then you have to build it back up again. You have to Frenzy, 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 get it back up to 3 stacks, and then it'll fall off 3 seconds later, and you can't get through your rotation in 3 seconds. So, I hate this. Earthstriker's aspect. Basically, this is an aspect where if you swap a weapon 10 times, your next attack will overpower. And it should be your next core/weapon mastery attack will overpower. It'll make so much more sense, because how it lines up is you will almost always basic attack on the 10th hit. It's incredibly different to line up with an actual core mastery. So it should just force it to your next core mastery. And the double swing needs its own aspects to bring this into late game. I don't think their buffs are going to do it. All right, here's my rant. It's been 30 minutes. I'm sorry. Maybe someone will appreciate this, but these are just what I think as a Barb expert for low level. I've done enough of the end game where I feel like I understand what Barb is, and I just feel like whatever they're talking about right now in this campfire dev update, whatever, just kind of missed the mark. So thanks everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed the rant. Please subscribe to the channel.